She gave him her mating hammer, expecting him to fail. But by ancient law, he just claimed her as his mate. This is humanity F, yeah. Commander Adam Terrell stood before the wide-paneled viewport of the United Earth Federation starship Concordia, watching as the cold stars drifted past. The galaxy was deceptively tranquil at this distance, silent, glittering, eternal. Yet Adam knew that behind that curtain of light lay 15 years of blood and fire. The war with the Thraxian Empire had cost humanity dearly. Border colonies were reduced to rubble fleets, torn apart soldiers buried in worlds whose names would fade from memory, except for the few who had bled there. And now, against all odds, the Federation had forced this meeting, peace negotiations, with a race who only respected the language of strength. He adjusted the dark jacket of his foremost dress uniform. His medals gleamed faintly under the chamber's lights, each one a story of survival, of comrades lost, of victories earned through grit rather than superior firepower. His right leg carried a faint limp, the aftermath of a plasma wound sustained in the Centauri campaign. Across his forearm stretched a jagged scar, a reminder of how close he had come to death in the icy trenches of Caliban. These imperfections made him human, yet paradoxically they were the very marks that gave him strength in the eyes of his people. "Remember, Commander," murmured Admiral Harding, his voice low, calm, but heavy with significance. "These negotiations are critical. The Thraxians will not bow to eloquence. They respect strength above all else. If we show weakness, if we falter even once, we may as well hand over the outer colonies without a fight." Adam nodded, jaw tightening. "I understand the stakes, sir." The diplomatic chamber around them thrummed with quiet preparation. Holographic displays shimmered, showing the disputed territories between Thraxian and Federation space. Security teams in crisp uniforms stood at attention along the walls, their expressions carefully neutral, though Adam could sense the unease in their posture. This was more than a diplomatic mission. It was a gamble with humanity's survival. The doors at the far end of the chamber hissed open. A procession of towering figures strode inside, their movements unnervingly graceful for such massive beings. The Thraxians had arrived. Their skin bore a sheen of gray-green, glistening faintly beneath the chamber lights. Their armor, alive with pulsing turquoise patterns, shifted as though infused with energy. Each warrior carried themselves like a blade unsheathed, restrained only by the thin veneer of diplomacy. And then Adam saw her. She walked at the center of the delegation, taller than the others, nearly 7 feet of lethal grace. Her silver-white hair cascaded in waves across shoulders plated with ornate armor. Where the other warriors' expressions were impassive, hers curved into a faint sneer, lips curled in disdain. Her armor was more elaborate, gilded with ancient engravings that drew the eye to her commanding presence. Despite the battlefield brutality written across her frame, broad shoulders, powerful arms, the strength of a predator, there was a striking femininity to her figure. Her waist tapered sharply before broadening into hips that seemed sculpted for dominance as much as allure. "That's War Matron," Solara Harding whispered at Adam's side. "Their chief strategist, second only to their high commander. Rumor says she orchestrated the ambush at Proxima 4. Adam's gut clenched. He remembered the reports, the sudden strike, the slaughter of unprepared colonies, the desperate retreat. He had lost friends there. Even now, the phantom ache of grief threatened to stir, but he forced it down. He was here to represent humanity, not his scars. The introductions unfolded with practiced precision. The Thraxian High Commander Krat spoke with a deep resonance that reverberated through the chamber. His words, filtered through a universal translator, carried both courtesy and veiled challenge. Solara stood silently at his side, her piercing silver eyes fixed on Adam, with something between curiosity and dismissal. When the initial rituals concluded, Harding announced a recess. The delegation scattered into adjoining chambers to prepare for the substantive negotiations. Adam, drawn by instinct, wandered into the tactical display room, its walls alive with star maps of disputed territories. He leaned against the holographic console, studying the sectors where human fleets had bled to hold their ground. "Analyzing your inevitable defeat, human." The voice was smooth female and laced with mocking amusement. Adam turned to see Solara filling the doorway, her presence dominating the room as though she owned it. Her armor bore intricate engravings, runes of past victories, and family crests etched into its surface. Actually, Adam replied evenly, I was reviewing the sectors where our forces pushed you back, despite being outnumbered 3-1. For an instant, something flickered across her face, annoyance, maybe respect before her smirk returned. She circled him slowly like a predator stalking prey. Your species is stubborn like parasites that refuse to die even after the cure is applied. Adam met her gaze without flinching, though he had to tilt his chin upward to look her in the eye. We prefer the word determination. Her lips quirked. Your physical form is so diminutive, fragile. It's remarkable you've survived this long against superior species. Size isn't everything, War Matron Adam answered with a faint smile. We've learned to compensate. Something gleamed in her eyes, a challenge perhaps. With a fluid motion, she unhooked the massive weapon slung across her back. It was a warhammer unlike anything Adam had ever seen. The head was larger than his torso, etched with cyan runes that glowed faintly like living fire. She held it effortlessly, extending it toward him with a mocking tilt of her chin. This is my Krathar, she said, forged by my own hands when I came of age. Every Thraxian warrior carries their soul weapon. Do you wish to test yours against it? Adam knew immediately this was no casual gesture. The hammer had to weigh over 100 pounds, perhaps more. She expected him to refuse, or worse, to take it and collapse in humiliation. Without hesitation, he reached out and grasped the weapon's haft. The weight surged downward, threatening to wrench his arms from their sockets. His muscles screamed, but years of training on Earth's higher gravity, years of pain and scars steadied him. He widened his stance, braced his core, and held. Slowly, deliberately, he adjusted his grip until the hammer rested firm in his hands. Interesting design, Adam commented, his voice deceptively calm. The weight distribution favors overhead strikes. Good for breaking armor, not so good for lateral swings. For the first time, Solara's composure cracked. Her silver eyes widened, disbelief etched into her expression. That's not possible. Adam raised an eyebrow. Is something wrong? She recovered quickly, reclaiming the weapon with hands that trembled only slightly. Nothing at all. I merely wish to demonstrate our craftsmanship. But the faint blue flush creeping across her cheeks betrayed her. Without another word, she turned sharply and strode from the chamber. Adam exhaled slowly, realizing his hands still tingled from the encounter. Whatever test he had just passed, it was one he hadn't even known existed. Minutes later, the delegations reconvened. The chamber buzzed with formalities, but Adam could feel Solara's eyes on him from across the table, a gaze sharper and more unsettled than before. Something fundamental had shifted. He didn't yet know that by lifting her weapon, he had triggered an ancient Thraxian ritual. He didn't yet know that his single act of defiance would change the future of two civilizations. All he knew was this: in that moment, standing unbowed beneath her scrutiny, he had forced one of the galaxy's fiercest warriors to see humanity not as fragile prey, but as equals. And that was only the beginning. The chamber had barely settled when a figure older and far more imposing than any of the warriors rose to her feet. Her armor bore not just battle scars, but the etched weight of centuries, and her silver eyes glowed with authority. She raised a hand, silencing the murmurs of the room. I am Elder Matron Valley, the translator, announced in crisp tones. Keeper of the ancient ways. It has come to my attention that a most significant act has transpired in this hall. Adam stiffened as her gaze fell directly on him. Solara for once looked uncertain, her lips parting as if to protest. By the sacred laws of Thrax Valley continued, when a warrior presents their Krathar to another, and that one bears its weight, the covenant of Kavash is invoked. By holding War Matron Solara's soul weapon, Commander Adam Terrell has proven his worth. They are now bound lifemates by ancient, unbreakable tradition. The room erupted. Human delegates leaned forward in shock, whispering furiously. Thraxian warriors rumbled in disbelief, some laughing, others growling. Admiral Harding surged to his feet, his professional mask cracking as he demanded clarification. This is absurd. Solara snapped her face, flushing that faint bluish hue Adam had noticed before. I was merely demonstrating our weaponry. The human misinterpreted. The Krathar does not misinterpret, Valley said firmly, her voice a hammer striking an anvil. The weapon chose. The binding is absolute. Adam found his throat dry, words caught somewhere between disbelief and outrage. With respect, elder matron, he managed, I cannot be bound by laws I did not know existed. This must be a mistake. Her expression softened, though the iron in her tone remained. The laws of Thrax do not require your understanding, Commander. They require only action. You lifted the Krathar. You stand. The bond is sealed. High Commander Krat, who had been watching like a predator weighing his prey, leaned back with a calculating nod. Perhaps this unexpected union is fortuitous, a living symbol of our people's alliance. Harding, though visibly reeling, forced his voice steady. Our government must be consulted before Of course, Krat interrupted smoothly. Let us recess until tomorrow. That will allow War Matron Solara and Commander Terrell time to acquaint themselves with their new circumstances. The session adjourned in chaos. Adam followed Harding out, his mind spinning. He had come here as a soldier, a strategist, a representative of human resilience. He had not come here to get married, least of all to a 7-foot alien warrior woman who clearly despised him. Yet when the doors sealed behind him, he realized Solara had followed. They stood alone in the diplomatic suite assigned to him, silence thick between them. Solara paced like a caged beast, her white hair shimmering in the lamplight. You knew about this tradition, Adam said finally. It wasn't a question. She stopped, her jaws tightening. It is an ancient custom, rarely invoked. I never believed a human could even lift a Krathar, let alone hold it. I did not anticipate this outcome. Adam pinched the bridge of his nose. So by your laws, we're, what married? Her silver eyes met his. By our laws, we are life mates, bound in spirit and flesh. I am to fight at your side, to guard your honor, to... She hesitated, a faint flush coloring her cheeks again, fulfill all duties of a mate. Adam exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. So I accidentally married you by picking up your hammer. That's fantastic. To his surprise, a small, unwilling laugh escaped her lips. The sound was low, melodic, and it softened her austere face. Your species has a remarkable talent for complicating simple traditions. Despite the absurdity, Adam found himself smiling in return. If we're life mates now, maybe you should call me Adam instead of human. She repeated his name slowly as though testing its weight. Adam. In her melodic accent, the syllables became something exotic, strangely intimate. For a heartbeat, the air between them charged with possibility before she looked away, resuming her restless pacing. Later, Admiral Harding brought them to a joint chamber, explaining with professional calm that Earth Central viewed this as an unexpected opportunity. Adam caught the sympathy in his commander's eyes, but also the warning play along or risk humanity's only chance at peace. Solara removed her ceremonial armor in their quarters, revealing the form-fitting undersuit beneath. Without the imposing plates of metal, she seemed no less formidable but strangely more real. Her muscles flexed with every movement, a body honed for battle, yet undeniably feminine. Adam found himself watching her too long until she turned with a sharp look that dared him to speak. Instead, he said, Your admiral seems pragmatic. He is a good man, she replied, prowling the perimeter like a restless cat. But you, what do you value right now, Adam? Clarity, he answered without hesitation. I'd like to understand what this binding truly means. She stopped at the viewport, staring into the star-speckled void. The cravash is our most sacred bond. When a warrior presents their soul weapon and another proves worthy, their essences entwine. The Krathar is no simple hammer. It carries part of its wilder spirit. It cannot be deceived. It chose you. Adam frowned. So the weapon judged me. And now what are we expected to play, house husband and wife? Her lips twitched at the unfamiliar phrase. The concept translates poorly. We are bound as warriors, first to fight as one, to protect one another's honor, to face death together if needed. Her voice faltered slightly. The physical aspects follow naturally in time. Adam caught the flicker of embarrassment in her eyes, and he couldn't resist a grin. The mighty war matron Solara, embarrassed by a little intimacy, Her eyes flashed dangerously. Thraxians do not speak of such things lightly. The joining of bodies is sacred, a continuation of the bond. I didn't mean to offend, Adam said quickly, his tone genuine. Cultural differences, remember. She regarded him for a long moment before nodding. You could not know our ways. Silence settled again, heavy, but not hostile. Adam realized the absurdity was beginning to transform. What had started as a trap, then a humiliation, now carried weight he couldn't ignore. Solara was fierce, proud, infuriating, but there was also depth behind those silver eyes. The following morning, Adam woke to find her already awake, moving through a series of combat forms. Her body flowed with strength and grace, each strike precise, each stance resonant with years of discipline. She wore a sleeveless tunic and fitted leggings, her muscles coiling and releasing like sculpted steel. Adam watched entranced. When she finished, he applauded lightly. You've been awake for some time, she observed, not surprised. Didn't want to interrupt, Adam replied. That was beautiful. The Krath forms, she explained. Every warrior performs them at dawn to honor our ancestors. We have similar practices, Adam said, stretching the stiffness from his makeshift couch. Mind if I join tomorrow? Her eyes flickered with something like approval. Show me what your species calls combat. Adam hesitated only a moment before stepping forward. He moved through the strikes and counters drilled into every Federation soldier, then transitioned into the fluid circles of Aikido he had practiced since childhood. Solara watched with predatory intensity, circling him when he finished. Your forms redirect strength rather than meet it head-on, she said thoughtfully. Clever. You often face larger foes. Exactly, Adam smiled faintly. Then without warning, her hand pressed against his bare shoulder. Warm, strong, lingering. Adam froze at the unexpected contact, but she pulled away almost instantly, her expression alarmed. Forgive me, she said sharply. I have violated a taboo. What? It was just a touch. Among my people, skin contact outside battle or bonding is reserved only for kin or mates. I have dishonored our binding by touching you prematurely. Adam chuckled, which only deepened her distress. I'm not laughing at you, he assured quickly. It's just among humans. Casual touch is normal. Handshakes, pats on the back, hugs. It's how we connect. Her brows furrowed. You touch regularly without ceremony. All the time, Adam said. It's considered healthy. She looked at him strangely as though he were an alien, and in her eyes he was. How strange. To us, touch is power. It must be channeled carefully. Then when you touched me just now, I acted on impulse, she admitted, that blue flush returning. It was inappropriate. Not by my standards, Adam said gently. You didn't offend me. For a moment she studied him, her gaze sharper, more searching. Then he did something bold. He extended his hand, palm up. In fact, among humans, this is a greeting, a way of saying we acknowledge one another. She hesitated. Her eyes locked on his hand as though it were a weapon. Slowly she placed her palm against his. The contact was electric, not metaphorical, literal. A current surged between them, startling, powerful, intimate. She gasped softly and Adam's breath caught. The crevasse, she whispered. The bond amplifies the connection. Adam tightened his fingers around hers, interlacing them deliberately. She shuddered at the intensification, a sound escaping her throat, halfway between surprise and something deeper. Among humans, Adam said softly, this is how we hold hands with someone we're close to. Her silver eyes darkened, her breath uneven. It is overwhelming. Your energy is strong, Adam Terrell. For a heartbeat, they simply stood joined, hand to hand, the barrier between diplomacy and desire thinning to nothing. Perhaps, she said at last, her voice hushed, you might show me more of these human customs for diplomatic purposes. Adam smiled, recognizing the invitation beneath her formality. I'd be honored, War Matron. Their joined hands pulsed with shared energy, a silent vow neither had intended yet, neither wished to break. And so the accidental marriage of a human soldier and an alien war matron began not with hatred, nor even with peace, but with the simplest of gestures, a touch neither would ever forget. The negotiations resumed the following day, but the chamber no longer carried the brittle balance of diplomacy. Whispers ran through both delegations like fire through dry grass. Word of the binding between Commander Adam Terrell and War Matron Solara had already spread beyond the chamber walls. By now, no doubt both the Federation and the Thraxian High Command had received encrypted reports. What had been intended as peace talks had turned into something far more volatile, a union that could either symbolize hope or ignite further conflict. Adam entered the chamber with Admiral Harding at his side, his uniform immaculate but his jaw tense. He felt every eye on him, weighing judging. Solara strode beside her own people, her armor once again polished and imposing, though Adam caught the subtle tightness in her movements. She was no less under scrutiny than he. High Commander Krat opened with a booming declaration of Thraxian intent, demands for concessions, territorial recognition reparations. Adam listened carefully, noting that their opening position was deliberately extreme. Harding remained calm, countering with practiced diplomacy. Yet all the while, Adam was aware of Solara's silver gaze flickering toward him, sharp measuring. Then came the interruption. A heavily armored figure rose from among the Thraxian delegation. He was taller than most, broader, his body crisscrossed with glowing turquoise scars that testified to countless battles. His voice carried across the chamber like a blade scraping steel. "This so-called binding is an insult," he declared. "A human cannot claim a war matron of Thrax. The covenant is reserved for worthy warriors, not fragile aliens who stumble into our traditions." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Admiral Harding's brow furrowed. Adam remained still, though his blood surged hot in his veins. Solara's hand twitched toward her weapon, but before she could speak, the elder matron Valley rose. "War Master Drakath," she said sharply, "the Krathar has chosen. The ancient laws are not yours to dismiss." Drakath's eyes narrowed, glowing faintly in the turquoise light. "Weapons respond to strength alone. This human tricked the ritual, or else your weapon is broken." "War Matron," his gaze speared into Solara, "you were to be bound to a Thraxian warrior to birth heirs who would lead us to glory. Instead, you are shackled to a frail outsider." The insult lanced the chamber. Solara's lips curled back in a snarl. She rose to her full towering height, her voice like thunder. "You dare question my honor, Drashath? The Krathar chose him. Do you accuse me of weakness?" For a heartbeat, Adam thought she would challenge the War Master on the spot. He could almost feel the weight of her fury through the strange tether of their bond. Yet before the confrontation could spiral, Krat raised a commanding hand. "Enough," the High Commander barked. "There will be no challenges during negotiations. War Master Drakath, you will respect the binding while we are guests aboard this vessel." The warrior bowed stiffly, though his glare promised retribution. He sat, but the tension lingered like smoke. Harding leaned subtly toward Adam, his voice low. "You just earned an enemy, Commander. A dangerous one." Adam said nothing, but across the chamber, Solara's eyes met his, blazing with a fire that was not entirely anger. That evening, Adam returned to his quarters only to find Solara already there waiting. She stood near the viewport, the starlight catching the silver sheen of her hair. "You should not have provoked him," she said without turning. "I didn't," Adam replied, loosening his collar. "He provoked you. I simply refused to let it stand." Finally, she turned her gaze piercing. "Among my people, a warrior defends their own honor. It is rare for another to speak on their behalf. Among mine," Adam said quietly, "we stand with those we care about, especially when someone threatens them." The words hung heavy in the air. Solara's expression shifted, something flickering behind her eyes that Adam couldn't name. She stepped closer, her presence filling the room. "No one has ever defended me like that," she admitted, her voice softer now, more dangerous in its honesty. Before Adam could respond, she caught his face between her hands and kissed him. It began tentative, almost uncertain, but quickly burned into something fierce, demanding. Adam returned it without hesitation, the heat of her lips and the raw energy of their bond sparking through every nerve. The kiss was not gentle, but it was real, unfiltered, primal. When she pulled back, her breathing ragged, she whispered, "This bond, it unsettles me." Adam, still catching his breath, managed a wry smile. "Unsettles me too, but I think I could get used to it." The following days blurred with negotiations and stolen moments. In the chambers, Adam played the role of disciplined officer, quietly supporting Harding's diplomacy while enduring the watchful eyes of both species. In private, he and Solara circled one another, cautiously testing boundaries. One evening after a grueling session, Adam found her tracing the scars across her collarbone with absent fingers. He approached gently, taking her hand. "Another story written on your skin?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "A duel long ago. I fought for command against a rival. I won, but not without cost." Adam guided her hand to the scar on his forearm. "Centauri campaign, plasma burn, nearly lost the arm." Their eyes met, and for the first time Adam sensed her vulnerability, hidden beneath all the armor and defiance. They shared their histories through touch scars, becoming words, bodies becoming stories. It was intimate, profound, and unlike anything Adam had ever experienced. But peace was fragile. Drakath continued to stir unrest among the Thraxian delegation. Adam overheard whispers from human envoys, too questioning whether this alien marriage was a humiliation for Earth. Both sides carried doubters, cynics, zealots, unwilling to embrace the symbol that Adam and Solara had unwillingly become. One night, Harding summoned Adam privately. "Central Command is cautious," the Admiral said, his tone heavy. "Some see this binding as an opportunity. Others fear it compromises your objectivity." Adam frowned. "With respect, sir, I never asked for this." "I know," Harding replied, "but you accepted it when you didn't let go. And now we must make it work for all our sakes." Adam left the meeting with a bitter taste in his mouth. But when he returned to his quarters, Solara was there, her silver eyes watching him. "They doubt you," she said simply. "They doubt both of us," Adam corrected. Silence stretched between them until she stepped forward, her voice low. "Then we proved them wrong. Together." And in that moment, Adam realized something had shifted. What had begun as accident, mockery, even disdain, was transforming. Solara was no longer just an adversary or even an unwilling partner. She was becoming something more. The change was most apparent the morning he joined her again for the dawn forms. Their movements flowed side by side, his aikido blending with her craft. She corrected his stance with the brush of her hand, and the electric current of their bond surged. This time neither pulled away. Their palms met, fingers interlaced, and the energy between them roared like a living thing. Solara gasped, her usual composure breaking. "This connection," she whispered, "it grows stronger." Adam smiled faintly. "Maybe it's not just the bond. Maybe it's us." For once, she didn't argue. The next negotiation session nearly shattered the fragile progress. Drakath, unable to restrain himself, demanded a duel of honor. "If this human is truly worthy," he thundered, "let him face me in ritual combat. Let us see if his bones can withstand Thraxian steel." Gasps filled the chamber, even Harding paled. Adam rose slowly, his face calm, though his heart hammered. "If you're challenging me, War Master," he said evenly, "then I accept." Solara surged to her feet, fury in her voice. "Adam, no. Their duels are often to the death." But Adam met her gaze and offered the faintest smile. "Then I'll just have to make sure I don't die." The chamber dissolved into chaos, shouts rising from both sides. Crowd intervened, forbidding any duel while negotiations were ongoing. Drakath backed down, but not before his eyes locked on Adam with a promise of future reckoning. Afterward, as they walked back to their quarters, Solara rounded on him. "You fool," she hissed. "Do you even know what you agreed to? Drakath is one of the deadliest warriors alive." Adam shrugged lightly. "He insulted you. I couldn't let it go unanswered." For a long moment, she stared at him, inquiring with something deeper. Then, unexpectedly, she pulled him into a secluded alcove, her lips crushing against his. This kiss was different, hotter, hungrier, filled with desperation and unspoken emotion. When they finally broke apart, she whispered fiercely, "No one has ever stood for me like that, not even among my own people." Adam touched his forehead gently to hers. "Get used to it. You're not alone anymore." Her silver eyes softened, vulnerability shimmering within their depths. "Perhaps," she whispered, "the Krothar chose more wisely than I thought." That night, in the quiet of their quarters, they sat together by the viewport, the stars stretching endless beyond. Adam's arm rested lightly against hers, a contact that now felt natural rather than forbidden. Their bond pulsed between them, steady, undeniable. He thought back to that moment in the tactical chamber when she had mocked him with her weapon. He could not have imagined then how profoundly it would change his life. And though danger loomed, though enemies circled, waiting for weakness, Adam found himself almost grateful. For in the eyes of this alien warrior, he had found something unexpected, not just respect, not just alliance, but the fragile, flickering spark of love. The days that followed tested both delegations to their limits. On the surface, negotiations pressed forward, maps redrawn, fleets repositioned, territorial demands refined into cautious compromises. But beneath the veneer of civility, fault lines widened. Adam felt it every time he walked into the chamber. Human eyes followed him with suspicion, whispers questioning if he was compromised by the bond. Thraxian gazes lingered with disdain, as if he were a trespasser who had broken into their most sacred tradition. Only a handful saw the potential for what it was, a chance to bridge worlds. Solara bore it all with the stoicism of a warrior, her armor gleaming, her posture unyielding. But Adam, bound to her now, could sense the strain. Through their growing bond, he caught glimpses, flashes of emotion, fragments of thought. She feared for her honor. She feared for him. And perhaps, though she would never admit it aloud, she feared for what they were becoming together. One night, after a long day of fruitless debates, Adam found her alone in the training chamber. She swung her Krathar in wide arcs, each blow slamming into the reinforced floor with enough force to rattle the walls. Sweat gleamed on her gray-green skin, her breath sharp and furious. "Rough day," Adam asked, leaning against the doorway. Her silver eyes snapped to him. "Your people will not yield. Mine see compromise as weakness. We circle endlessly, achieving nothing." She swung the hammer again, the cyan runes blazing as if fueled by her frustration. Adam stepped closer. Maybe it's not about maps and star systems anymore. Maybe it's about symbols. She tilted her head, wary. "Symbols?" He gestured between them. "Us. Whatever this binding is, people can't stop talking about it. They're terrified of it. Or fascinated. Maybe that means it matters more than any treaty line on a chart." For a long moment she studied him, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. "You speak like a strategist," she admitted softly, "but you also speak like someone who forgets the cost. This union is not a metaphor, Adam. It is real. It binds not only politics, but flesh and spirit." He held her gaze steadily. "Then let's stop pretending. Tell me what it truly means." Her lips parted, then closed again. Finally, she lowered the hammer and stepped closer until he could feel the heat of her body. "It means that I am yours and you are mine. To reject it would dishonor us both. To accept it means more than either of our governments understands." Adam swallowed hard. "And what if I want to accept it not because of politics, but because of you?" The blue flush spread across her cheeks again, and for once she looked away. Then she whispered, "You would be the first human to ever speak those words." The bond between them grew not through words, but through moments. Sparring side by side in the training chamber, sharing meals in uneasy silence that slowly softened into conversation. Late-night discussions by the viewport where Adam told her of Earth's oceans, forest cities, and Solara spoke of the Thraxian ancestral plains, where warriors trained beneath skies lit by twin moons. With every story, with every laugh reluctantly given, the line between duty and desire blurred further. And then came the night before the signing ceremony. Adam had returned from another strategy session with Harding, his mind heavy with doubts. Central Command was divided. Some hailed the bond as a breakthrough, others feared it as a trap. He had been told in carefully chosen words to consider the political value of personal appearances. In other words, play the role of dutiful husband, whether he wanted to or not. But when he entered his quarters, Solara was there, her armor removed, her undersuit clinging to her athletic form. She stood by the viewport starlight, painting silver fire across her hair. "You're quiet tonight," Adam said softly. "My thoughts are unsettled," she admitted. "Tomorrow our people will look to us as proof of this alliance. Yet I do not know if what I feel is duty or something else." He stepped closer, drawn by a pull stronger than logic. "Maybe it doesn't have to be one or the other." Her silver eyes met his and the air between them crackled. She reached out, fingertips tracing the scar on his forearm. The touch burned, sending a shock of energy through both of them. "The bond grows restless," she whispered. "It demands completion." Adam's breath caught. Completion. In our tradition, the crevasse is sealed not only by spirit, but by flesh. By union. Her voice faltered, uncharacteristically hesitant. "I would not force this upon you, Adam, but if we are to face tomorrow as one, Perhaps we should face tonight the same way. For a heartbeat, Adam stood frozen, every instinct torn between caution and desire. Then he cupped her face, gently tilting her gaze back to his. Not because of duty, he said firmly. Because I choose it. Because I choose you. Her lips parted in surprise, but before she could speak, he kissed her. This kiss was unlike the desperate ones before. It was deliberate, reverent, yet charged with all the pent-up fire they had denied for days. Her hands gripped his shoulders, pulling him closer while the bond between them surged like a living current, entwining their essences. Armor and uniforms gave way to bare skin. Scars became stories touched and traced with reverence. For every mark on Adam's body, she whispered acknowledgement, honoring his survival. For every wound etched across hers, he laid a hand in silent respect, learning the history of a warrior who had fought too long alone. The crevasse blazed to life. Their energies collided and merged, surging beyond flesh, weaving glimpses of memory into shared vision. Adam felt the weight of her Crathar in his own hands, the pride of her first victory, the loneliness of her command. Solara gasped as she glimpsed his battles, his losses, his quiet determination never to yield. When they finally lay together in the aftermath, breathless and entwined, Solara whispered against his chest, "The binding is complete. We are truly life mates now." Adam held her close, marveling at how natural it felt. "So what happens next?" Her hand rested protectively over her abdomen. "Perhaps new life. The union of energies often leads to creation." Adam froze, stunned. "You mean it is possible," she said softly. "The ancient texts speak of children born from unions such as ours. Rare, but not impossible." For a moment, Adam could only stare. Then unexpectedly, he laughed a quiet, incredulous laugh. "So let me get this straight. I picked up your hammer, accidentally married you, and now I might become a father because of it." Solara's answering laugh was rich and melodic, the sound of a warrior disarmed. "Destiny works in strange ways, Adam Terrell." Morning came too soon. The diplomatic station buzzed with anticipation as preparations for the treaty signing reached fever pitch. Human and Thraxian banners adorned the grand chamber symbols of olive branches, mingling with ancestral war crests. Dignitaries filled the seats, eyes sharp, waiting for the spectacle. Adam stood beside Solara, his dress uniform pristine, her ceremonial armor glowing with renewed energy. They were no longer simply commander and war matron. They were life mates, whether by accident, tradition, or choice. Yet danger lurked. As the ceremony began, Adam's instincts prickled. He scanned the crowd and spotted him, Drakath, watching from the shadows of the Thraxian delegation, his expression cold and calculating. Something about his stillness set Adam's nerves on edge. The Federation president spoke, her words soaring. "Today we end 15 years of conflict. Today, through unexpected bonds, we begin anew." Applause rose, but Adam barely heard it. His eyes were fixed on Drashath, who slipped quietly toward a service corridor. Adam leaned towards Solara, whispering, "Something's wrong. Stay here." Before she could protest, he moved slipping through the crowd, following the War Master's massive form into the dim-lit corridor. He found him crouched over a control panel, a device in his hand glowing with sickly green light. "Quite a time to be adjusting environmental controls," Adam said, coolly blocking the exit. Drakath straightened, snarling, "This does not concern you, human." "A sabotage device during a treaty signing, I think it concerns me a lot." The Thraxian's hand moved to his blade. "You are an abomination, you and your spawn. This false peace dishonors our empire." Before Adam could respond, Solara's voice cut through the air. "No, Drakath. It strengthens us." She stood in the corridor entrance, her Crathar blazing in her hands. Despite the swell of her abdomen, she radiated lethal power. "The child we carry is no abomination," she declared. "It is the future stronger than either of us alone." Drakath roared and lunged, blade flashing. But 3 months of training with a Thraxian war matron had reshaped Adam. He sidestepped, redirecting the attack with a fluid motion from Aikido, using Drakath's own momentum against him. The War Master stumbled, and Solara struck her hammer, slamming into his chest plate with a thunderous crack. The blow sent him sprawling, armor dented his weapon, skittering away. Before he could recover, security forces flooded the corridor, both human and Thraxian. High Commander Krat arrived, his expression cold. "War Master Drashath," he said, voice like iron, "explain yourself." Caught in corner, Dracath spat defiance but could not deny the evidence. The sabotage device was confiscated, his betrayal laid bare. He was dragged away, roaring curses that echoed down the corridor. Adam and Solara stood side by side, breathing hard, their bond thrumming with the adrenaline of shared battle. When they returned to the chamber, silence fell. The treaty was signed with even greater weight than before, not just words on a holographic screen, but sealed in blood loyalty and the resilience of two unlikely life mates who had faced death together and chosen life instead. That night, as cheers still echoed through the station, Adam and Solara stood together at the viewport of their quarters. She rested her hand over her abdomen, his hand covering hers. "Who would have thought," Adam murmured, "that the future of our people would hinge on me holding a really heavy hammer?" Solara's laughter was soft but full of warmth. "The Krothar chose wisely, my mate. It saw what even I could not at first, the strength that would unite worlds." Adam kissed her temple, feeling the pulse of their bond strong and undeniable. "Then let's make sure we're worthy of it." The signing of the treaty should have marked the end of hostilities. Yet Adam knew the fight was far from over. Even as the Federation's anthem rose in the chamber, even as Thraxian warriors bowed in reluctant acknowledgement, shadows lingered in every corner. Peace was fragile, fragile as glass held between two trembling hands. When he and Solara returned to their quarters that evening, exhaustion weighed on them both. She unfastened her armor with deliberate movements, as if releasing not just metal plates, but the weight of centuries of conflict. Adam watched her, struck by the strange duality she embodied: formidable warrior and vulnerable partner, a woman who could shatter steel, yet laugh like music when disarmed. "You fought like a Thraxian today," she murmured, setting her Krothar on its stand. Adam chuckled dryly. "I almost got skewered by a war master twice my size." Her lips curved faintly. "And yet you still stand. That is what matters." They sat together on the edge of the wide bed, the stars glowing through the viewport behind them. For a long while, neither spoke. Their bond pulsed steadily, an undercurrent that no silence could erase. At last, Solara reached out and traced the scar along his jaw. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Regret what?" "Taking my weapon, binding yourself to me, this union." Adam caught her hand in his, pressing it lightly to his lips. Not for a second. The silver of her eyes softened, and for the first time since the binding began, Adam saw something beyond the warrior's mask. A woman longing for trust, for acceptance, for something she had never dared hope for. But peace rarely gave space for tenderness. The following morning, whispers rippled through the corridors of the station. Reports circulated of Thraxian factions calling the treaty illegitimate. Some human officers muttered in mess halls that Adam's marriage was a disgrace. A rumor even reached Harding's ears that a few Federation admirals were preparing contingency plans in case the alliance collapsed. Adam found himself once again at the center of a storm. Harding summoned him with a grim expression. "Central Command is split. Some want to embrace this bond as a diplomatic tool. Others fear it undermines our authority. They're asking if you're still capable of serving objectively." Adam's jaw tightened. "They think I've gone soft because I'm married to a 7-foot alien warrior woman." "Not soft," Harding replied. "Compromised. They think you may put her people's interests above your own." The accusation stung. Adam left the Admiral's office with anger simmering beneath his skin. But when he returned to his quarters, Solara was there waiting. She didn't need to ask what had happened. Their bond told her. "They doubt you," she said simply. "They doubt us," Adam corrected. She moved closer, her hand brushing his. "Then let us remind them who we are." The reminder came sooner than either expected. 3 days after the treaty was signed, a joint delegation gathered in the Grand Chamber for a cultural exchange ceremony. Humans presented artifacts of Earth, a fragment of the Apollo moonlander, a violin performance streamed live from New York, a holographic display of ocean waves crashing against cliffs. The Thraxians responded with demonstrations of ancestral combat forms, chants that echoed like thunder, and relics of weapons carried by heroes of old. It should have been a celebration, but Adam's instincts prickled the moment he stepped inside. The air felt wrong, too heavy, too taut. His soldier's senses screamed danger. Then he saw him. Dracath, released from confinement pending trial, stood among the Thraxian delegation, his eyes burning with barely restrained fury. Adam's hand twitched toward the ceremonial dagger at his belt, but he forced himself still. This was supposed to be peace. The ceremony began. Elder Matron Valley spoke of unity, her voice a steadying force. Solara stood beside Adam, her presence fierce and proud. Yet beneath her composure, Adam sensed her unease. Their bond vibrated with shared tension. Then the lights flickered. A moment later, alarms blared. Red glyphs cascaded across the chamber walls. Breach detected systems compromised. Panic rippled through the assembly. Guards surged forward, but too late. Explosions rocked the outer hall, shattering the illusion of safety. Chaos erupted. Dracath's roar cut through the din. He drew a concealed blade, its edge glowing with turquoise fire. "This piece is a lie," he thundered. "Thrax will not be shackled by human weakness." He lunged not at Adam, but at the Federation president. Adam moved before he thought. Years of training and months of instinct, honed by Solara's influence, propelled him across the chamber. He intercepted the strike steel, clashing with plasma sparks, scattering like fireflies. The blade's heat seared his arm, but he held fast. Solara was beside him an instant later, her Krathar blazing. She swung in a wide arc, the hammer striking Drashath's blade with bone-rattling force. The War Master staggered, but did not fall. His eyes blazed with hatred. "Traitor," he spat at Solara. "You side with this weakling against your own kind." "I side with the future," she snarled, her voice echoing through the chamber. "And you will not take it from me." The chamber became a battlefield. Guards fought to secure the exits. Civilians fled in panic, and Adam and Solara faced Dracath together. He was stronger, faster, forged by decades of combat. But they had something he did not: unity. Adam moved with precision, redirecting Dracath's strikes using his size against him. Solara struck with thunder, each hammer blow resonating with the bond they now shared. Together they pressed him back, step by step, until the War Master faltered. At last, with a final coordinated strike, Adam twisting the blade from Dracath's hand, Solara's hammer slamming into his chest. The War Master fell. Guards surged in, seizing him before he could rise again. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of damaged systems. Later, when order was restored, Elder Matron Valley addressed both delegations. "Let all present bear witness," she declared. "This bond between War Matron Solara and Commander Terrell is no accident. It is strength. It is proof that together our peoples can overcome even betrayal from within." Applause rose, hesitant at first, then building. For the first time, Adam felt that the room wasn't staring at him with suspicion, but with something closer to respect. When they returned to their quarters, Adam collapsed onto the couch, every muscle screaming. Solara sat beside him, her hand resting on his. "You saved her," she said softly. "The president," she shook her head. "Me, you stood between me and my people's hatred, again." Adam met her gaze, exhaustion giving way to honesty. "And I'll keep doing it, because you're mine, Solara, not as property, as partner." Her silver eyes glistened, a vulnerability she rarely revealed. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. "Then we face whatever comes. Together." Weeks passed, and though Dracath was imprisoned, the echoes of his rebellion lingered. Some Thraxian factions still muttered of dishonor. Some human officials whispered of danger. But in the training halls, Adam and Solara sparred side by side, their bond deepening with every strike. In diplomatic sessions, they sat together, living symbols of an alliance too powerful to deny. And at night, when the stars burned bright outside their viewport, they shared quiet moments where words weren't necessary. Adam thought often of what Solara had said, that new life might already be growing within her. The possibility filled him with equal parts fear and awe. What would a child of two worlds mean? A symbol of unity or a target of hatred? One evening, unable to keep the thought to himself, he asked, "Would you welcome it, a child?" Her expression softened. "I already do." She placed his hand gently against her abdomen. "Whether now or in time, it is not just possible. It is destiny." For the first time, Adam let himself believe. The peace was far from secure. But as Adam stood beside Solara in the chamber weeks later, their hands intertwined, he knew this much: together they were stronger than either people dared to imagine. And for the first time in years, he felt hope. 3 months after the battle in the Grand Chamber, the Concordia floated in neutral space alongside the massive Thraxian dreadnought, unyielding glory. Once such a sight would have heralded imminent war. Now the two warships stood sentinel as symbols of an unthinkable alliance. Commander Adam Terrell, though increasingly called Ambassador Terrell, stood at the viewport of their shared quarters. His hand rested against the glass, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Behind him, the sound of quiet breathing drew his gaze. Solara sat on the couch, her ceremonial armor modified to accommodate the gentle swell of her abdomen. The cyan runes etched into the plates seemed to pulse brighter these days, as if resonating with the new life within her. Her silver eyes were softer now, but no less resolute. "You're nervous," she observed without looking up. Adam gave a small laugh. It's not every day a soldier is asked to help shape history or to become a father at the same time. Solara rose, moving to stand beside him. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining in the gesture that had become second nature. The bond hummed warmly between them. "You are more than a soldier," she said. "You are Kvash, bound to a war, matron of Thrax. Future father to a child of two worlds. The human who changed the course of history simply by refusing to drop a hammer." Adam chuckled, leaning his forehead against hers. "When you put it that way, it almost sounds impressive." "It is impressive," she insisted, "and soon all will see it." The formal signing ceremony was grander than any before. The Grand Chamber had been remade Earth's olive branches and stars blended with Thraxian battle crests and ancestral runes. Delegates from both species filled the chamber, their voices hushed with anticipation. President Fallon of the Federation and High Commander Krat of Thrax stood side by side, the treaty projected in shimmering light between them. Elder Matron Valley stood near her, ancient eyes warm as they fell upon Solara's rounded form. "Today," Fallon declared, "we mark not just the end of war, but the birth of something greater. A bond between species forged by tradition and sealed in courage." High Commander Krat's voice followed, deep and commanding. "Through trial and blood, through betrayal and sacrifice, we have found common ground. Strength recognizes strength. Together, humanity and Thrax will forge a path greater than either alone." Applause thundered, yet Adam's focus was elsewhere. Across the chamber, he spotted Drakath among the guarded prisoners, his expression masked but his eyes burning. And then, as Fallon continued her speech, Adam saw the War Master slip into a service corridor with suspicious purpose. Adam leaned close to Solara. "Something's wrong. Stay here." Adam, but he was already moving. The confrontation came fast. Adam found Drakath tampering with environmental controls, a device glowing in his massive hand. "You can't accept peace, can you?" Adam said, voice steady despite his racing heart. "Our empire was built on conquest," Drakath snarled. "Your child is an abomination. This false peace will make us weak." Before Adam could react, Solara's voice rang out behind him. "No, Drakath, it will make us stronger." She stepped into the corridor, her Krathar blazing, her presence radiant despite her pregnancy. "The child you call an abomination carries the strength of two worlds," she declared. "A future where conquest is not the only measure of worth." Drakath lunged, blade flashing. He aimed for Adam, knowing the human was the weaker link. But 3 months of training with Solara had changed him. Adam sidestepped, redirecting the attack with fluid precision, throwing the War Master off balance. Solara struck. Her hammer crashed against Drakath's armor, sending him sprawling. Security forces swarmed, disarming him and seizing the sabotage device. High Commander Krat arrived moments later, his face a mask of controlled fury. "War Master Drakath," he growled, "you will answer for this betrayal." Dragged away, Drakath roared curses, but his downfall only cemented what Adam and Solara had become. Not symbols of weakness, but of survival. From that day, their bond became the cornerstone of a new era. 5 years later, the gardens of the joint human-Thraxian embassy on New Harmony Colony bloomed with roses and fire lilies, Earth and Thraxian flora thriving side by side. The embassy had become the beating heart of interspecies cooperation, its architecture blending human ingenuity with Thraxian strength. Adam, now formally Ambassador Terrell, stood at the edge of the training yard, pride lighting his features. "Feet wider, Kravor," Solara instructed firmly. "Feel the weight become part of you." Their son, Kravor Thrax Terrell, adjusted his stance, his small training hammer glowing faintly with miniature cyan runes. At 4 years old, he already stood taller than most human children his age, his skin a lighter shade of Solara's gray-green, his hair silver-white with a metallic sheen. His eyes were Adam's deep blue shot through with flecks of Thraxian silver. He swung the hammer with surprising strength, completing the form without faltering. Solara ruffled his hair proudly. Excellent. You honor your ancestors with your focus. Crevor's face lit up, the patterns on his skin glowing faintly with excitement. Can I try the overhead strike now? Tomorrow, Adam interjected, stepping into the yard. Your grandparents are arriving by shuttle soon, and I'm not having you bruised before you meet them. Crevor's eyes widened. They're bringing the telescope. The very same, Adam said with a grin. The one that can see Earth from here. With a delighted laugh, the boy carefully placed his hammer on its stand before racing inside. Adam turned to Solara, who now wore lighter ceremonial armor, suited for her diplomatic role. Yet her Crothar remained ever within reach, a tradition she refused to break. He grows stronger every day, Adam said. Solara nodded. His instructors say he has your patience and your stubbornness. Thankfully, not your tendency to challenge every admiral to ritual combat, Adam teased. Her laugh rang across the yard. I only challenged Harding once, and he deserved it. Adam smiled watching her. 5 years in her presence was still as striking as the day she had mocked him with a hammer. Only now the disdain was gone, replaced by warmth, loyalty, and love. But the galaxy remained restless. High Commander Krat had passed leadership to a younger generation of Thraxian officers, many eager to prove themselves. Some embraced the alliance wholeheartedly. Others grumbled that it shackled their empire. A few ambitious war masters like Trebok pressed constantly for greater military initiatives. One afternoon, as Adam and Solara prepared to receive Trebok's delegation, he asked quietly, Do you ever regret it, handing me your Crothar that day? She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head. Never. The Crothar chose better than I could have known. It saw the future when I could only see an adversary. Adam pressed his forehead gently to hers, their private ritual. Not bad for a diplomatic incident involving a very heavy hammer. Her arms encircled him easily, still strong enough to lift him effortlessly. The heaviest weapons forge the strongest bonds, my mate. As the years passed, more children were born from unions of human and Thraxian lifemates. Each one was celebrated and scrutinized as a living bridge between worlds. Cravor became a symbol of hope for some, a target of suspicion for others. But in him, Adam and Solara saw only their son, stubborn, curious, brilliant, and strong. And through it all, Adam never forgot that it had all begun in a chamber aboard the Concordia with a mocking challenge and a hammer he refused to drop. Legacy. 5 years turned into 10. The alliance held, strengthened by trade joint fleets and cultural exchange. New Harmony blossomed into a hub where humans and Thraxians lived side by side, where children of two worlds grew up bilingual, bicultural, and fearless. Adam and Solara remained at the heart of it, not as pawns, but as leaders. He brought diplomacy, she brought strength, and together they balanced the fragile scales of peace. Sometimes late at night, Adam would wake to find Solara watching him, her silver eyes soft in the starlight. What are you thinking, he would ask. She would smile faintly. That I never imagined my life mate would be human. That I never imagined I would laugh so often or feel so much. And Adam would answer truthfully, neither did I. But I wouldn't change it. The bond that began in mockery became legend. Historians would one day write of treaties and wars, of battles fought and empires forged. But Adam and Solara knew the truth. The future of their people had turned not on politics or armies, but on a moment of defiance, a refusal to let go of a weapon meant to break him. And from that moment, two worlds had been bound together forever.